Commissioner Jacek Steinrock, Commissioner Kendall Smith, Commissioner Helen Ferguson, Commissioner Job Silva, Commissioner Stephen Nevalia, Commissioner Sherman Jackson, Commissioner Sal Hernandez.
The supervisors. If you'd rather, I'll wait till Sherman's here, but in the interim, since we're all here, I'll tell you a quick story, which is somewhat related to my issue coming up, and that is regarding the phone workday, hunt day, discovery event that's happened every year for the last couple of years. Well, this year, once again, Fish and Game has showed no concern for the waterfowlers in this community on a non-Dune Stewart workday. It was Tuesday, I don't know if it was end of October or the first week of November. Regardless, the department decided to burn all the brush piles out there at the work area. And Tuesday was a authorized hunting day. There was no public notice that it was closed, which I found out later it was. And there was no public notice that it was going to be burned, which is a legal requirement. And there was no complete permit to do the burning, which I found out later may not be illegal because it's cooperative agencies of the government all covering for each other. But, and Frank Kemp's response to me was, well, it was open to hunting for the first 2.5 hours of the day. And I said, well, there was nothing on the phone. There was no public notice. He assured me they had all the permits. I found out later that same day they didn't have them all. And again, I don't mind, just be straight up with me. If you don't have it, just say with the truth, which is we went ahead and burned it anyway. And I don't have an issue with them burning it. They have to do something with it. But my point to Frank was you could have burned it 2 weeks ago, earlier before the season started. You could have burned it the day before, which was a work day, or the day after, but that didn't fit their schedule. So I changed my hunting plans that morning and went somewhere else. And the excuse that the department gave to the Regional Air Quality Management Board in Eureka was, well, it was closed to the public and it was all good, which I told that gal, well, it wasn't closed, it wasn't advertised as being closed, and she had a long discussion with the department and CAL FIRE on the permit requirements to do that kind of burning. And it's not a simple task, but they've done this every year for the last, 6-8 years. Yeah, I don't disagree, and the excuse was they found out at 7:45 that morning they had the permission to burn, which again was not true. And I expressed all that to Frank, and he gave me all the excuses, and it points out that they really have no concerns at all for the waterfowlers, and it's unfortunate. When we had that power outage for 6 or 8 hours, whenever that was, probably a month ago, the phone line got all goofed up, and I texted Frank and I said, well, tell me what's going on and I'll put it on Facebook. I don't mind working with them, but it's got to be a two-way street, and it's obviously not. And it's really sad. So I can go into my other topic, or we'll wait till Sherman gets here, if you like. You all must have something else.
Seeing no other public, we'll adjourn then to status reports. Anybody have any status reports that they've come across during the course of since the last meeting? So we'll move on down to business. I don't know that there's any public, federal, state, or private land information. Does anybody have anything to offer there? Elk Stakeholders Group. Last meeting, we kind of discussed this. Helen put together a letter. Everybody has a copy of said letter in your packet and so forth. And so we're just trying to get everybody to take a peek at that and see if that's fine. And if so, we'll vote to send the letter to Fish and Wildlife. Anybody have some comment on the letter? I don't know whether it's going to stimulate them or not, but at least it's a request.
know who I am. Another short follow-up story on the department's disinterest in waterfowling in Del Norte County. Back in August, I wrote to Sean and Frank and specifically requested that they meet with a group from the Del Norte waterfowlers before they decided all the closures this year. They ignored me. I wrote them again in September. They ignored me. I called Sean the Thursday or Friday before he was going to come here and give a presentation that I guess Frank ended up giving. And he told me he told me it wasn't basic, it was word for word, there was nothing to discuss. That's why he didn't get back to me. And I'm thinking, well, that's rather discourteous and just general, you know, and it speaks entirely to the fact they don't care, you know, and I think a phone call or with myself and Commissioner Jackson, which we've done the last 2 years, we could have at least had a discussion. And I wasn't at the October meeting, but I don't think there was much discussion, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but it looked like the same old, here's the dog and pony show, and you shall bend over and accept it, pretty much, you know. And I get it, that's how things work, but it's very disheartening, and they don't seem to care. So to that end, I'm here tonight on behalf of the Del Norte waterfowlers, approximately 150 members, to rehash some of the hash about the hunting closures on Lake Tolowa. Most of you have been a part of this or known about this for the last several years, so I don't want to go on too long, but I think a little history is important here. 2 years ago, this commission formally opposed the hunting closures with a written letter to the department, which they've obviously ignored. The waterfowlers sent in 247 letters of opposition, which they've also ignored. And again, I'm here tonight for just a little bit of restoration history to refresh everybody's memory. Over 12 years ago, the Tolowa Dune Stewards put together a work plan and decided to go down this adventure of dune restoration out at the south end of Lake Tolowa. That effort was co-authored by the department. It was approved by the Coastal Commission in 2012. And that was for a 5-year project focusing on 34 acres of dune grass removal using 2 different methods, and then followed by 10 years of maintenance, quote unquote, whatever that really means. That's up to the dune stewards to define, apparently. The 14 acres were specified for mechanical removal. I believe they've removed 2 acres, give or take, and the remaining 20 were all manual method. And I think they've done 2/3 of those probably. Again, I don't remember the exact numbers from Frank's presentation, but the interesting thing about that presentation, if you look at them from the last 4 years, because there's been 3 different ones, the numbers are all very similar. They've just changed the categories that the areas fall into. And if you've never been out there, you don't know what they're really talking about. I go out there every other week or so throughout the year. And it also, at that time, the project boundary was described as 111 acres. And it's interesting that the hunting closure area is almost half of that amount, whereas the work area is not. The work area where the hunting closures isn't half of that boundary area that they talk about. And that causes some concern to me when I look at the overlays on the maps and the photographs and all that stuff. And I'm not arguing that they haven't done good work. What I'm arguing is that they've done inefficient and ineffective work. They're already having to do maintenance on areas they've already removed the grass from, because what they pulled this summer is already growing back. And it's obvious to any of us, I think, I'm not a biologist, but it's common sense. It's growing back faster than they can ever deal with. And that tells me their process is ineffective, and it's obviously inefficient. They've been working on it for 12 years, as far as I'm concerned, and they're nowhere near halfway done. Anyway, moving forward, in 2018, the dune restoration effort was funded for $300,000 over 5 years by a grant from the Wildlife Conservation Board. That was the first year that the conditioning of the public, and that's the term I'll use a lot in this, there's conditioning of the public to believe that work could only be done during the snowy plover non-breeding season. And they threw that out in the public very regularly for about 3 years. And finally, our group called them on that and showed them where what they're saying is not really true. They can work all year round out there with a few minor provisions, but they don't really want to. And that's unfortunate. The only group that this work affects are the local waterfowlers. And quite frankly, we're a bit tired of it all. In 2022, the Wildlife Conservation Board granted them $1.9 million for this work so it could continue for the next 25 years. And it amazes me that the time and money that's been spent, there has been some good work done out there, but there's more left to do than has been done so far. And this is another part of the conditioning for us to accept that there's going to be 25 years of closures out there during the hunting season. There is no doubt in my mind. Well, I won't be here in 25 years, but what you're correct about, though, is the long-term plan here, and I've known this since 2002, is to absorb the south end of Lake Earl into the state park, whether officially or just by proxy by how they manage it. And it's the result's the same no matter how they do it. So it's a concern for me, it's a concern for future waterfowlers as well. And again, this conditioning, and I think it was apparent in Frank's presentation, I'm sorry he's not here, I'm sorry I wasn't there to bring some of this up, but it's obvious to me that's exactly what's going on. They want us to get used to all these excuses for not being open to the public. And the hunters are part of the public, and when it's closed, we're excluded. And it's also interesting that the coastal permit that they have explicitly states that this project will not interfere with authorized public activities out there. And that obviously isn't true. And in my many discussions with the Coastal Commission about all the things wrong with this project, the bottom line was we don't care as long as no endangered plants get messed up out there. That's their only concern. It's not about the wetlands protection or any of the other stuff, public access. So again, it's more of the, you will accept this and get along. In 2022, when I first brought this to the attention of the California Waterfowl Association down in Sacramento, I was speaking with their Vice President, Mark Henley, of Legislative Affairs and Advocacy, and he asked me the basic, simple question, which holds true today. He goes, why don't they just go in there and get the work done? And I said, Mark, the reason is because they don't want to. And that's still the case today, and it's still going to be the case 5 years from now, and so on down the road. A couple of quick things from the 2012 Dune Restoration Plan, which are pertinent to where I'm going with all of this tonight. Under Project Implementation and Restoration Action, this is a quote from the document that they authored. Restoration work will ideally take place in 2 distinct phases over 3 to 4 years. This was written in 2012, and it was accepted by the Coastal Commission as part of the permit conditions. If adequate funding is not available for the entire project, which has held true and probably will always hold true because it's a never-ending project, restoration will be a multi-year project beginning at the south end of Area 1, which is the very south end of Lake Tolowa up against Tolowa Dune State Park, and progressing north as work is completed. They sort of followed this the first year or two, and then the closer they got to the lake and where we all hunt, they jumped up to the breach site, which is the north end of Project Area 1. They cleared some of that along the beach, along the foredune, and then they dropped back to the middle, which is where we all hunt, and started working in a circular pattern. And it infuriates me that they're not following their own plan, and if they had kept with the process of going north continually, they'd be done out there on the south end of Lake Tolowa by now. But they didn't want to get finished. It's the bottom line. And what they've done, particularly in the middle of that loop, is now the regrowth started, like I said, some of it started from last summer's removal, and it's regrowth right now. So they're never going to get out of that area that we actually hunt. And Frank didn't point this out on his slide, but he mentioned where the snowy plover breeding component mostly was at the north end of the foredune. That's 300, 400, 500 yards from where we hunt. So that fact that there's snowy plovers there is irrelevant to having to have closures to get the work done. because where we're hunting, they're not going to be. So it's just another excuse to say, well, we're going to close off 57 acres, you know, because we don't want to disturb anybody, and they can't, and we don't want them working in there, and we know damn well they can work in there in the summer. Fortunately, the last summer, they have worked back there, but they need a larger crew, they need a lot of things. One other quote from the restoration plan. Phasing of the work will take place so that the beach grass in the lee of the foredune, which is on, the foredune's on the west side, the lee is on the east side, will be removed in concert with removal on the windward face. This is important because fresh blowing sand from the foredune will stimulate the growth and vigor of any beach grass in its path. This is important because they've left a 3/8 of a mile long strip of dense vegetation at the foredune down the whole western length of this work area. And it's going to help the regrowth in a negative way, you know, for the rest of us, of all this stuff they're clearing in the middle. And it makes no sense why they are not following these two specific items in their own work plan. And the only reason I can think of is, well, they don't want to get it done. And it's just more stuff for them to use as, well, we have to keep going back and redoing this. And it speaks to the same conditioning of, we're never going to get done out here, and we've chosen this inefficient and long-term ineffective process so that it never will end. And one last quote for you. This is from the same year, 2012 Dune Restoration Work Plan, Appendix G. This is a little lengthy. Reports, it's under monitoring plan and adaptive management. Reports shall be completed annually during the restoration process and will be available on file. This report will describe the work completed for that year and place that work in the context of previous and future work. Those are two key things, previous and future work. Data obtained during effectiveness monitoring will be summarized and analyzed with respect to project goals and objectives. To my knowledge, there has never been an annual report produced in the 12 and a half years that this project has been ongoing. And that last paragraph points out the importance of them sitting down once a year, looking at what they accomplished, what they didn't accomplish, how they accomplished it, process maybe how they could have accomplished more or less, and to learn from that. And to the best of my knowledge, that's never happened. And to me, it's something they should be held to task, because again, it's a requirement of their Coastal Commission permit, these reports and the following the conditions in these things. In September of 2022, I requested those annual reports from the department, and I received a reply, well, this reply, I'll read it to you, from Region 1 Manager Tina Bartlett. We have also requested the restoration work accomplished information from the Tolowa Dune stewards and will forward that to you upon receipt. I've never received it. I doubt that Ms. Bartlett's ever received it, because my guess is it's notes scratched on a piece of paper, if anything. Which leads me to why I'm here tonight. I'll repeat myself for the fifth time. We've been conditioned by the department to accept ongoing dune restoration and maintenance as an excuse for hunting closures. While the biological and ecological goals of this project may be admirable, the planning, execution, accomplishments, reporting, and effectiveness of the current work processes is subject to significant questioning in my mind. How much longer will removal take and why? Is there a more efficient and effective way? And to partially answer that question, we know damn well there is. There's multiple avenues for dune restoration, and they do them in Humboldt County, and there's certainly no reason that I know of they can't do them here in most areas, not necessarily all, but there are all alternatives out there, and Sean Fries is very well aware of those. And I think he needs a little encouragement to become more aware of them and say enough is enough out here. You know, let's get the job done and let's move on. Is there a more efficient and effective way? Another large question to me is who actually manages this project and for what purpose? Does the department manage it? Do the dune stewards manage it? Does it manage itself? Is it managed by some nebulous group somewhere? It's not obvious to me who who's really in charge, and and more importantly, who's responsible and accountable. And my guess is that's not the state. But I would hope that it's them, because it's their property, and they were a co-signer, on the application for the coastal permit. Is there any accountability of funds? $2 million plus has been dumped into this thing. Granted, some of it was most recently, and I'm sure they haven't spent it all. $400,000 went to the Friends of the Dunes in Arcata for their role in this, which is, I'm sure, project management and paperwork stuff. That strikes me as a little funny, but I guess that's normal in the nonprofit working with the government world. But perhaps, I'd like to know what did we as taxpayers and as people concerned about the environment locally, what are we getting out of this besides some pipe dream down the road 20 years that hopefully will come to fruition, but not 20 years from now? And I already mentioned enhanced removal and restoration efforts, and I'd like to hear from the department what those are, why they can or can't be used, and how much could that add to this whole project as far as reaching a conclusion. So with all of that, I'm here to encourage this commission to consider a request to the Elnor County Board of Supervisors to demand an accounting of what has transpired with this project's planning, execution, accomplishments, reporting, and required monitoring effectiveness, and annual project reviews over the last 12-plus years of this project. It's not enough in my mind for them to come and say, oh, we're going to do better, we're going to do whatever. I want to see what the hell they've done on paper for the last 12 years, the department, what they've done, besides rubber stamp everything the Dune stewards wanted to do without putting a whole lot of thought into how it impacts the people that live here beyond just that environmental community. And with that, I thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you have the copies of your email or letter from Tina saying she was going to?
You betcha I do.
Okay, I think that's important, because we could start there and say, well, we waited how many years?
2.
2 years. And maybe we could formally ask her and submit that copy and say, okay, we would like to have an answer to that, and start with her. I personally would like to see some examples in other areas with their reports, because certainly they're going to have to report to the other areas like Humboldt County. And Humboldt County seems to be more successful because of different techniques. And so maybe we could just ask for copies of what's going on in other places under the accounting part. Do you know if Humboldt County got the same grant through the same people?
I think that all the work in Humboldt County is done through the Conservation Board and has been funneled to Ducks Unlimited or some large organization. I don't think it's a local.
I think we need to find that out.
Well, Sean should be able to tell us. I mean, he's the oversight manager. What's that? Yeah.
We just want a summary maybe of what they've, the troubling part to me when Frank was in here is the regrowth.
Yeah.
Well, he has much said, it will never be done.
Well, that's what I meant.
And we asked him, he said, it'll always be ongoing. So, well, they successfully cleared some of the slope area where they've actually had some plovers nesting. Maybe we should focus on keeping that out and stay away from the other stuff.
Well, I'd be curious to know how much regrowth removal they've done on the state parks. They cleared that a decade ago. And I don't know if there's crews out there monthly doing maintenance over a large area. I don't know how we'd find that out without asking the state park, but, it's all public information. But
How far is that from Tolowa, the big park down?
maybe a half a mile,
If that.
if that. It's a quarter mile from where it floods up in the winter. And there's, you can see pretty clear where the state park is. There's no boundary marker there, but there's a significant change in the beach grass, in that
That's another
area.
thing, going back to one of our other requests that we never got the answers for. We need to have them show us
Yeah.
So your request to us is to do what?
I'm requesting what now? Well, I,
Asking us to send a letter to the board of supervisors, or should we make this request from Fish and Wildlife, who promised 2 years ago to send you the reports? Should we ask them again to see if they got them, number one? And when they say they don't have them,
yeah,
in that same letter, you guys ask them for the reports from Humboldt County.
yeah, that makes,
And see
yes,
whether those two things can happen, and if they say they don't have them from either county, they
Mm-hmm.
may have them from Humboldt, but not from here, then you gotta go after here, because in Humboldt County, you need to find out how they got it done, because there are reports of Humboldt County being rather efficiently beach grass cleared, right?
yes,
So how did they do it? And what procedures did they do? That's what you're asking.
yeah.
And the answer to the question might, I would bet, because they got sprayed.
Yeah, it's important,
And then
yeah,
there wouldn't be any regrowth.
yeah, and it's important to get those reports if they exist. And my guess is on the Humboldt ones, they have some sort of report, and because that's our only defense, to use that word, from just being okey-doked on down the line, because it'll never stop without some information. So sure, I think that,
If they're getting $400,000, like you said, it's part of paperwork and management. So
It is.
It's kind of peculiar if the management worked in Humboldt County and it's not working here.
Right. They're using different management techniques.
well, and
Probably.
yeah, the one may just be the grant management, not the work management. That's kind of what we found out with that other group we were talking to about getting some work done.
So is it okay to ask you to go ahead and ask her to send you the information, the reports from Del Mar County?
Sure, I can ask her this,
And see if she's got the same reports from Humboldt County that could be sent. Would that be the same person to ask for Humboldt?
why not? I don't,
One,
yeah, and
Are they on any fish and game land in Humboldt, do you know?
I'm, because Sean knows about all of this, I'm assuming that they are. I mean,
Well, that Ocean Ranch, that was Fish and Game. Isn't that Fish and Game, Ocean Ranch?
yeah, that's all fish.
That's where a large removal was.
Yeah. And they deal with snowy plovers on the South Spit. They've been down this road with all this stuff, and they seem to make it work down there, but up here, our hands are tied. So I'd be happy to write Miss Bartlett and say, well, it's December
Maybe she says she doesn't have any from Del Mar, but maybe she has reports from Humboldt.
yeah, well, that may not be a requirement from that project, I don't know, but I'll find out. I'd be happy to send her an email, and I'll come back and share it and do whatever else I,
And then we'll proceed down the path of asking the board of supervisors to request specifically, because, and you gotta be able to quote the permit, right?
yeah,
In the permit, it says X. Do you have X? In the permit, it says you're supposed to have this report for every year, and it's been 12 years. Do you have 12 reports? Those types
Yeah.
of specific questions from the specific.
Ask for yearly reports.
well, that, in the letter, in the email I sent her, that's the only reason she replied. She okey-doked me on everything else I mentioned, but I quoted her the chapter and verse that I quoted to you folks. And technically, those reports are supposed to be at the Lake Erie Wildlife Area headquarters, available to the public. But good luck with that one. Yeah. I will contact Ms. Bartlett, and I will let you all know. And as usual, I appreciate your support. I know you get tired of me droning on about the same stuff, but it's,
It's an ongoing issue for folks in Del Mar County
yeah.
who use that area and recreate and hunt. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, as I hope you all know. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody have anything on Chinook salmon? Okay. Pheasant hunt? Anybody have anything else they have on pheasant hunt?
It's supposed to happen.
Do you guys want to keep the ESA listing on the Chinook salmon or remove it from the agenda? Do you want to keep the listing for the Chinook salmon or remove it? Okay.
We've been over that a number of times, saying, the Chinook and the climate listing process.
Okay, and And then the other one I had a question about was, do you want to continue to have the junior pheasant hunt on there, or just mention it when it's coming up?
We can just tell you as Aaron
Okay.
addresses.
So I can remember.
We can probably leave it on there, that way we just mention
Yeah.
it next meeting, just because it's gonna happen again.
Okay, so just leave it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, here I go again. You have in your packet a very brief beginning of a letter. I had the other day when I drove in Saxon, over it. And, I called Sean, and Sean gave me the number, and I don't have it here, of the guy that's access, correct? Now, hey, maybe they don't wanna do that, but they can. And that's what I think we should do as a group, is request that they do that specifically as a starting point, first phase of a plan, because it's becoming less and less usable.
I would like to see the boat ramp in that condition down near Sacramento.
Oh, it never happened.
Well, of course,
Yeah.
because there's people there.
Aren't they liable for
We
somebody
don't-
breaking their access
there's a couple of public access.
There is one, there's a park, one for sure.
There's a park
Because,
there, and there's an access down.
Rob,
the
isn't
beach
that
park.
the historical drying area?
Yes, that's the reason. That's why they're wanting to ban it.
Can't fish there anyhow.
Yeah.
You can't do something, so it wasn't allowed fishery for Henry
Was.
or is at this point.
Okay, that's why I'm,
So,
okay.
Is what the request is, it says, and you have a copy of this, remove allowance for surf smelt by dip net or Hawaiian type throw net, and change to a no take, I don't know what an SMCA means, with tribal exemption.
I think if there's no concern, then don't fish, damn it. Seriously.
See,
What's that, SMTA, you don't know what that is?
I don't know what an SMCA means, with tribal exemption for pollination. As stated, yada, change the northern boundary to line of California Oregon state line. See, they're wanting to eliminate anyone dip fishing for any reason in that area other than themselves.
so it's, SMCA is a state marine conservation area.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Instead of a marine protected area, it's a state marine conservation.
Yeah. So. I know what my opinion is, what's yours?
Why don't we, request them to, come to the next meeting and explain the details to us?
This is wildlife?
No, tell us.
I agree with that. I don't want to come to a conclusion either without knowing any more facts. I kind of want to
Make
review
it,
this.
whoever this lady is, let's have her come in and give us
That
an
goes
answer.
to come?
Yeah, so that we have a deep understanding.
Jacob should be on that, he's,
Well, I know, but she's one whose name's on it.
Yeah. And, hey, quite probably the reason they want to ban it is because there haven't been much many smelt recently, and they want to be able to, what few are around, to be able to dip them. That's certainly quite probably the reason, but I don't know how many other folks actually physically go down there and attempt to dip smelt.
well, most people just do it along.
Sure.
They get planned right now.
Oh,
See, they drive down there out there, 100 years, right? And that's the reason why they're talking.
Take everybody else.
You know, I don't think anybody else gets in that vicinity either because of the lack of really good access.
Yeah, there's little access to it, so, you know, I think.
They were running good there, nautical in the other day. You see the birds working at nautical in, they're definitely there.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's part of this restricted area.
Man, not part of the border there though.
The smelt have gone down, absolutely. We used to stand on the south bank of Bridge Level and dip the break. That was, copy of it, they're gone. There aren't even any cans out there right now. You know, maybe 100. But I mean, if their aim is to kill the water fouling on Lake Earl, it's been imminently successful.
I don't have a clue.
Well, see, the trouble with that, it requires certain percentages of salt water. The salt water percentage needs to be what, below 40 or below 30 to be able to germinate.
Below 20.
Below 20, okay,
Yeah.
germinate. Now, it can grow at higher levels, it'll grow, but it won't germinate. And that's what's happening. There's no germination, too much salt. Too much salt. The seed won't sprout. It is.
I think the waterfowl people, because it's cheap, the waterfowl people ought to get, and collect some samples on both Lake Calhoun and Lake Earl, and it's dirt cheap.
He's been doing it.
Where are you sending them to?
I'm just recording the data, I'm not sending them anywhere.
Like,
You can buy a salinity
I see it
meter
on
for
Facebook.
$87.
What's that?
You can buy a salinity meter for $87.
I know, but it's dirt cheap to send it to a lab to get their name on it.
Not to do it every 2 weeks is not.
Well, you only need to do it a couple times, because if you go back and you do a public records request, all that information is available when they develop the Lake Earl Management Plan. And then it's either gonna be different, and a lot higher, or the same, or whatever.
Well, according to the Tetra Tech report, you're
Yes.
more than familiar with, is significantly higher for a longer amount of time.
Well, that's
But that's what I'm saying,
I know.
you know that, but you almost have to have a lab's heading on it to
Oh,
say.
sure, I get that, but what we really need is a scientific study done
Yes.
by an approved, state-recognized official
Oh, yeah.
association to pull this all together.
Samples would be suspect.
But if you show that the salinity level is a great deal higher, then maybe my college or something could write a scientific opinion.
Yeah.
And in other words, get it done cheaply.
Yeah.
Find a grad student, find a grad student who wants to do that project.
Yeah,
What?
get a grad student from Humboldt to do the project.
Well,
Who's been asking
No,
about for years.
no, I'm just saying, you get.
I know what you're saying, yeah. I'm working on finding this apart,
Yes, that's what
you
we
know.
need.
I wonder, talking about trying to get a scientific study, it might be interesting to contact the biology department at Humboldt State, or, Cal Poly Humboldt.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we we're just saying.
Yeah.
And see who would be interested down
Yeah.
there. Because there's gonna be a graduate student, there's gonna be a student down there that would be interested in that exact topic. And you can show them what it used to be, you can show them what it is, and, you know, there's a reason why you're getting that salt intrusion. When the lake level is at the same level today as it was X time ago, and you didn't get the saltwater intrusion. Because the saltwater intrusion is a problem.
Well,
Because it stays open so long, Rob.
well,
It used to
you know,
not,
it's open because they let it get too high.
that's what I mean.
For breaching. Now, has any entity done a study on the effects of letting it get so high?
Yeah, they did mention that.
Opposed, like,
Well-
okay, when we see, we've killed this, and we've killed that.
That's right. You can't, the problem with that, and Helen's been through this, she's been through it over and over and over again, and it's true. I can tell you that, and she's very aware, so you guys are probably aware, there used to be a viola out there that was an endangered species.
Oh, no.
And there used to be a butterfly out there that was an endangered
We all know
species.
about the
And I can tell you, I know exactly when the viola, the propagated a whole bunch of those violas to repopulate the violas in a specific area that had this problem. The butterflies and violas at the lakes all got drowned and killed when they let them run 10 feet. Now, if a private individual would have done the same thing, you'd be put in jail, because they were endangered species. And they flooded the lake and killed them. Now, if you ask them that question, they get pretty mum pretty fast. Yeah. They turn and run.
They're basically doing the same thing to the duck grass,
That's right.
the witch grass. and
Yeah,
everything.
the witch grass.
20 years ago, the Tidewater goby was a big deal. It's fallen into that category of we don't care, because they're all dead.
Well, they're not all dead.
Well,